Welcome to the Growth Officers Association podcast, one-on-one with GovCon leaders. I'm Mark Amtower. I'm here today with Kevin Cooley. The Growth Officers Association is a nonprofit membership organization designed to provide a forum for growth officers and others involved in the growth of our government contracting community companies. It provides a forum for networking and education, and we meet occasionally, usually in Reston, and we're findable at goa-tss.org or on LinkedIn. Please look us up and consider joining. Right now, on to my interview with Kevin Cooley. Kevin, welcome, man. Thanks for coming out.
Mark, I'm glad to be here, man. Always good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I'll preface this. Kevin and I go back a ways. I've consulted with his company on a couple of occasions, sat in on management offsites, so I know a bit about the company and the focus and the growth since I've known you, 10 years plus now, has been extraordinary. So let's start with your background and where you came from and how you got into this game.
Well, I mean, I kind of came from nowhere on one hand, but, as a kid, my dad was in the GovCon industry, primarily supporting the Navy with some rather large companies. So even as a kid, when you're 10 years old and you're asking your dad questions like, hey, what's a BAFO? Or, what does this mean? What's the FAR? Those kind of things. Or just the interaction between, the contractor community and the government community in a smaller part of the world. I mean, people all live in the same towns. You really learn a lot, you learn a lot about how the world really works, how the rules are really applied.
What town might that be?
Southern Maryland, Lexington Park, the community around what's now, Naval Air Warfare Center, Aircraft Division, and Naval Air Systems Command. So we've been at that Warfare Center 30 plus years. Company was started in '92. Our original owner was a guy named Mike Kalina. But I grew up in that community. You just really get a lot of insights, when you literally grow up in a community about how things work, how government folks make decisions, how the rules get applied, and it's very, very beneficial for your long-term career to have that insight.
Yeah. So you joined in '92.
Yeah. So the original owner, I knew his son real well. I mean, I've known these folks forever. He got out of the government, decided to start his own company. That was '92. So my very first job, the very first job I ever had, I've never really had a job interview. Was basically just stepping right into RMC. It was original owner Mike Kalina plus me. And you really get some great exposure there about the ground floor. Like, how does it really work? The ground floor. Like, there's no one else to tell what to do except you. You can look in the mirror and you can see the staff.
Trial by fire.
Right. And you'll find out if you can float or not, And,
Yeah.
For the most part, it's worked.
Well, it seems to have worked. I've done training for your company, LinkedIn training for your company, and I do a lot of one-on-ones with your staff. And what is unique from my perspective when I'm talking to them about building their profiles and how to present themselves, when I ask them, when we're writing the about section, I ask them about their journey to get there. And everybody effuses about having landed at RMC. I mean, everybody. And you're up to 700 plus employees now.
Yeah, we're right about 800. And, we really do go out of our way because it's a war for talent every day. I don't think people understand that it is literally a war for talent every day, especially in the IT space. Any IT person can go get a job pretty much by 5 o'clock, a new one if they want to.
Yeah.
So, if you do have an ethos and a structure and a strategy for taking care of folks, keeping them on board, keeping them committed, you better apply it. And I think we do that very well.
You do it better than just about any company I can think of. But talk to me about when that started, how that started, because it was just you two in '92, and obviously you stayed there. You must have liked it, but
yeah. So I really think and this question's come up before. Our original owner Mike Kalina. Here's a guy that didn't have a lot in front of him. Joined the Army, went to Vietnam, came out of Vietnam, and he would tell you even right now, hey, what really made it out for him was that the GI Bill let him go to college. So we've always had this idea that, hey, the best thing you can do for folks is educate them. You can build their career. You can give them that opportunity, whether it's a cert, tuition, training, whatever. You can help them really, go someplace. So that's always been a key thing for us. And then I think as as IT has grown and the difficulty of attracting and retaining people, it's just gotten harder and harder. We've just continued to gravitate towards, hey, what are the kind of folks we want? The kind of folks that want to lean into their life. Well, those are folks that are willing to leverage those benefits and go out and get that next degree or that next cert. I mean, we want to attract folks that actually want to use that benefit, because they're the folks that want to go out and they'll just chew the dirt. They're going to go out there and do great for the customer. I mean, plenty of folks don't. A lot of folks feel like, hey, I'm doing okay. I'm going to sit in this level and just not use those benefits. But the kind of folks we want, the kind of folks that are really going to get out there and leverage those benefits and build their career. So it's really resonated. I mean, that's one of the key things we do. We'll probably spend $1 million just in 2024, whether it's educating folks, helping them get a degree, or, every month we're holding various courses, CCNA, CCNP, Linux Plus. You've got to build that workforce to be able to fill the labor categories. There's plenty of companies out there that I tell them right to their face, you have a nice contract, but you're not going to have it in 5 years because you're not staffing it, because they're not willing to spend the money to make the people. That in this environment, that's what you got to do. I mean, they're just, you can't put an ad out and expect to get this perfect Linux person with all kinds of great experience, a master's degree in X, Y, and Z. You got to make them. So that's what we're doing. We're putting our money where the mouth is, and we are making the people.
Yeah, you also do something that's kind of unique. When a contract expires, you don't let people go.
Yeah, we do our best. I mean, you have a feel for where a contract's going, whether you're going to win, lose, it's going to expire, it's going to go away. I mean, you can, really play some games to harvest your best people. I mean, you spent all these years grooming them, growing them, building them. Do not just hand those over to the government or the next company. I mean, our competition for people is the government or other companies. We look at it that way. It is just the government's this distant part. I mean, you've got to look at the government as a challenge for people as well as other companies. Yeah, but we do our best to make sure we keep our best and brightest, because, I mean, that's our future leaders. That's our future hunters, I mean, that's how we're going to make this thing work. That's how we're going to scale. I mean, we've gone from when we first knew you, Mark, about 250 people to be 800 plus scale. I mean, you cannot scale without people. I mean, you have got to, and you're going to grow those people. You're just not going to go out and hire a Kevin Cooley or some other, Mark Amtower. You're going to build these people.
Yeah. Like a David Hickman.
Yep, like a David Hickman. You were going to, turn him into a true effective hunter. I mean, That's how you're going to do it.
David is the CIO, by the way, Vice President of Technology.
Yep.
For RMC, and his first job as an intern was at RMC, and like you, when he graduated, he went there and never looked back.
Yeah, we never turned off his check, I guess, but here he is. We always joke about that. It's like Office Space, He actually was laid off years ago. We just never turned off his check. It was a mistake. But no, he's done great. But it's that idea of, hey, when you have those folks that are winners, you better groom them and keep moving them forward. I mean, it's a relationship business, so you need PMs that can really knock the ball out of the park with that customer, that can bring information back and put the insights together about where the opportunities are. So when you finally have those folks that get it, do not let them go. Do whatever it takes.
Let's talk about that relationship aspect. 90% of whatever your business is with the Navy, and particular parts of the Navy. And forever, you guys have operated in 3 distinct areas: RDT&E, scientific computing, and cyber.
Yep.
And that's it. You don't go outside of your sweet spots, and you focus on a particular type of Navy client.
Yeah, just some thoughts there. I mean, I think this is just a great nugget to start with. And then I think the other part of this is, because we get this a lot from other companies. We go to other warfare centers or other environments, arenas, markets. And you hear folks say, man, how did you break into this warfare center? How did you win this contract? How did you get in here? How'd you do it? And it just comes back to, I mean, we call it log splitting. I mean, when you split wood, I mean, do you have a sharp wedge or a blunt wedge? It's a sharp wedge. I mean, you cannot, build a case as to why you should win a contract, or you should, attract the attention of managers when you come in there and you're like, well, I do 80 things well, but not very well. That's not compelling. You need to be really good at something. So, I mean, we've always focused on, hey, we are going to be the absolute best at the IT requirements associated with the RDT&E world. And some people would argue that, hey, that's not the case. There's definitely haters out there. But, I mean, you become the best in an area, and then once you're the best, you have that wedge. You can just keep knocking them out, warfare center after warfare center, and that's our plan.
Well, I mean, you're in, what, 6 now?
Yeah, we're in 7 now, actually.
7?
Yeah.
Oh.
So we, I mean, and, it's tough
I
to
lost count.
Yeah, it's tough to break into warfare centers. Some folks, like I said, how do you do it? How do you make this happen? How'd you get in here? I mean, you've got to have a sharp wedge. I mean, you have to have, sharp cost, all those kind of things, but you have to have a sharp wedge of capabilities. The staff that's got the training and all the right certs. plus the past performance that you've done well and continually. So, I mean, the reason we haven't branched out a whole bunch, I mean, there's other work out there to get from a revenue point of view, but where are we good? I mean, are we going to sharpen the wedge or make the wedge more effective by, getting into project and program management? That's not going to help us, drive more work here. We have this wedge. Just keep getting more and more focused on those three things you mentioned, RDT&E, scientific computing, and the other requirements around it.
Right.
And IT's not going away. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's just getting bigger. I mean, at some point, half the budget's going to be IT, it seems like. So just keep, there's plenty of work out there. Just keep swinging.
Yeah. For the longest time, you were focused on Pax River. Yep. And a couple of years, several years back now, you told me you were going to be migrating to Spa War, now Niwik.
Yep.
And, that's on the other side of the country, with the exception of Niwik Atlantic. So how did you go about cracking that nut?
I mean, it's just that idea of log splitting. I mean, it's kind of interesting. If you go back to when we won our first Niwik contract, which was maybe 3 years ago, I mean, we had contracts at PAX, contracts at Dahlgren, contracts at Indian Head. You can see how those are all kind of in the same geography, Mm-hmm. I mean, it's another leap to go to those warfare centers like Niwik Charleston or Niwik San Diego that are remote from others. I mean, it's hard to do that. There's no easy springboard to get there. But once again, I mean, they were going to let a contract that was all about our sweet spot, warfare center, RDT&E systems, the related scientific computing and lab type operations. I mean, we're just so strong in that world. We could put a team together and actually write some things down that the next guy just hasn't done. I mean, when you're doing that work already for 3 or 4 warfare centers and you're going to have to compete on the subject of corporate experience, you're just going to have corporate experience the next guy doesn't have. And that's part of the idea of, we talk about activity-based marketing and whatnot. I mean, get really good at what you're doing and keep getting better at it. I mean, you're just going to be able to crush people every time those competitions come around. But it was that first Niwik win was about being present. I mean, you're not going to be able to get partners and team members there if you just call them up out of the blue. Hey, I want to bid this contract that you think I'm probably not even credible for. I mean, you got to get present. You need to be in that warfare center on a regular basis. You need to be up in people's faces talking to them, government and other companies. You need to go to their local forums like the CDCA events. People need to see you're there. Otherwise, you're not credible. When you call, I'm not going to team with you. You're a loser. I don't even know who you are. You need to get present. And that's a big mistake. I mean, plenty of folks ask us, how do you win these? You've got to get devoted and get present. If you said to yourself, hey, I want to go win a contract out at, let's say, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane, Indiana, you need to plan on being in Indiana every month for the next 3 years. But I mean, that's how it's done. It's not easy. If you're lazy, you can't do it. But I mean, if you have the drive, you can make it happen. You've got to get present to be able to be even considered a player.
What's the latest nut you've cracked?
The latest nut we've cracked. Probably the most significant item for us in that world. Like you said, we've always been into the RDT&E environment. We've always been into scientific computing. We've always been into cyber. We've always had cyber contracts that were a lab, a division, a department, a warfare center. The big hump for us is just this past year in March, we were awarded the Marine Corps', and it's the Marine Corps Cyberspace Operations Group, MCOG, their enterprise computer network defense contract. And when I say enterprise, it's not for a lab, a department, a division. It is for the Marine Corps. I mean, the entire Marine Corps network, the MCSIN network. We are the enterprise cyber provider for the Navy primarily. So it's a huge step up for us.
How
I mean,
cool
in the past,
is that?
you're doing this, you're doing that. Well, now you're doing it for a whole service. So that really takes you to a new level in terms of past performance. Also responsibility. Do not screw this up. But I mean, it gives you the past performance to go toe-to-toe with the other big companies that are providing similar services for the Army, for the Navy, for the Air Force. You have the same past performance they do pretty much. And we do plan to go out and beat folks with that, with like a stick, I mean, that's a great credential for us, great past performance. We're really pleased with that.
That's huge.
And then the flip side of that,
I miss that?
I mean, it was on Mark. You're Mr. LinkedIn. It was on LinkedIn several times. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more posts going out, but that's probably our biggest, nut we've cracked recently. And it's a fantastic opportunity, fantastic customer. I mean, the Marines are so mission oriented. When you find folks that really want to do good work in a place where it's valued, that's a customer that gets it. And it's not hard to motivate folks to want to work there. I mean, on one hand, it's tough to find the kind of folks that do that work. People love to work for the Marine Corps. People love to work with the Marines. So,
I don't want to open your kimono, but are you going to migrate to SOCOM after that?
Well, it's funny you mention that because we're actually bidding a giant SOCOM contract right now. We feel like that would be a great place for us that can really value. I mean, those are the kind of folks when you sit down across from the table and say,
Right.
Hey, I'll put my money where my mouth is. We're spending $1 million this year just to train and certify people.
Yeah.
That's the kind of commitment they're looking for.
I know that when you're getting when you're laying your plans to go somewhere and it land a beachhead, that you get involved in the local communities, not just on the surface level, but deep down. So talk to me a little bit about Crane.
Yeah, so Crane is a small community. I mean, I kind of liken it from a warfare center sense. It's like Guam. I mean, it's an island by itself, and there's nothing around it for hours. So it's a small community. I mean, there's folks there that they went to preschool together at the Methodist Church, and elementary, middle, and high school, and they went to the same community college, and they went to IU and whatnot together. So talk about a small community. Everyone knows everybody, but that's a place where you need to have presence. I mean, if you go talk to folks, they'll tell their friends about you. I mean, it's just that small of a world. So you've really just got to break it into Crane. I mean, just like I mentioned in Charleston, they have a group in Crane. They host it's called Crane Regional Defense Group, CRDG. Those Midwestern folks, some really good, devoted, hardworking, nice people. I mean, you can get yourself into the CRDG. I mean, you can go to the meetings. I mean, they'd welcome you. They want to talk to you. I find a lot of difference Warfare Center versus Warfare Center. I mean, Crane, very open. They'll regularly have meetings, and they'll get all their managers up there, and they'll talk, and they'll make them talk. Other warfare centers, some of them, they don't want to talk. The whole point is I'm not coming out of my cube, but I'm not sharing info. I mean, Crane will get folks out there, their senior leaders, and they'll talk. They'll tell you what the problems are. I mean, you can shake hands with them and chit chat. And like I said, you got to have that presence. I mean, that's a place where having presence will pay off. You can go to those meetings. It's not a huge community. You can meet most of the other companies that are there. You can meet most of the other decision makers on the government side. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of remote. It's a great part of the country, though. Bloomington's a really great town. It's a great place to go have a meal and have a few drinks. Mm-hmm. Good people everywhere. I mean, there are a lot worse places to do the labor to go out and build a bunch of work. And that contract we have in Crane, it's like a $120 million contract, and we've got like 140 people out there. It's significant. So it's a lot of work to get it.
Which is probably a significant part of the workforce.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the largest IT workforce at that command for sure. It might be the largest IT workforce, in terms of government contractor in Indiana. I mean, there's just not that much DoD and or federal presence in Indiana. So that's probably one of the largest chunk of IT workforce in the community.
Yeah. So the first time I live in Columbia, Maryland, you guys are down Pax River. The first time I went down to your shop, I'm driving. It's only a 75, 90-minute drive tops, so it's not bad. But I'm thinking to myself, geez, this better be worth it. I walk into your shop, and it was like walking into my grandma's house, okay? Warm greetings. What do you want to drink? Do you need a snack? Do you want a bite to eat before you talk? The nicest people anywhere. So when you went to Crane, your company culture went with you, and they could probably intuit the type of company you were, and that had to influence in a big way winning that business.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and when you go after a big contract like that, you don't do it blind. I mean, you're regularly reaching out to folks on LinkedIn, you're calling folks at home, you're chit-chatting with them. I mean, you don't know if you're going to win, but you want to condition those folks such that they understand that, when this contract rolls over, they're going to have an opportunity. There's going to be a new sheriff. It might be worth staying for. I mean, what you don't want is all those folks to fly the coop. So I mean, you do chat with those folks. You talk about how we take care of people. You talk about our benefits. You talk about our unlimited tuition reimbursement approach, where we will build your career. We've already had 4 or 5 training courses out at Crane to get folks various certs and whatnot, because that's how an IT person is going to build their career. That's how they're going to get into that next labor category that puts them in a place to earn more. I mean, I think people value that. So yeah, I mean, reaching out to folks, chatting with them, making sure they understand where we come from, and I do think we're actually raising the bar for other companies. Because I do think other companies are sort of feeling like, why am I losing so many folks to RMC? Well, what are they doing? Well, they're training people. They're investing. I mean, frankly, we want to embarrass people. I'd love to see other companies adopt this, because that's how, as a nation, we're going to get the workforce to go forward and actually be able to execute.
I agree, but it's not going to be simple for other companies to build what is palpable about working with your staff.
Yeah, well, it'll take 20 or 30 years. I mean, you just don't get it overnight. But I mean, like I said about, being present and making the effort to go to Crane or go to Charleston, you just got to bite the bullet and do it. If you're lazy, you're not going to get there. You need to get out of the business. It's not going to get any easier. People aren't going to get any more available on the IT side. No matter what happens to the economy, we're not going to see that somehow, IT people are suddenly, without a job at all, and they can offer it at any rate. I mean, that's not going to happen. So, I mean, if you want to succeed, I think you really got to bite the bullet and just commit to, hey, here's what I'm going to do. And then some folks are going to succeed, and other folks see this as a lifestyle event, and hey, they're not really that interested in putting the blood in the pot. But that's what's got to happen. You've got to commit to take care of folks.
The culture is palpable, but
Yeah.
I want to switch. You want?
Well, I just wanted to say, you mentioned the SOCOM world, the soft community. We have been pursuing some work there. We're bidding a big contract there now. One of the coolest things I thought was a friend of ours that works with us that comes out of that community. He presented us with the SOF truths, Special Operations Force truths. They're 1 through 5. But the first truth, and I mean, I had never heard them. I'd never see them. I don't come out of that community at all. My entire career has been about the naval aviation world. So it was an education for me. But I just thought it was strange that most of their truths really mirror our approach. The truth number one, people are more important than anything. I mean, this is a relationship business.
Right.
It's about your relationship with the government and your relationship with your people. I love it. Some of the other truths are about, hey, you actually can't invent folks. You have to build them. I mean, you're not just going to go out and hire the best IT people. You will make them. And that, hey, when an emergency happens, you can't just create people. I mean, you have to have already built them, designed them, mentored them, turn them into the machines you want them to be. I mean, so those soft truths, that really echoes basically a lot about our approach to taking care of people, taking care of an issue. So I just think that's a great touchstone. What are we doing? I mean, how are we building that business development engine in terms of our staff and our people? It's about the same ethos that's in those soft truths, taking care of people, investing in them, building them, understanding that, you're just not going to get there overnight. You've got to make the people.
Okay. I'm going to change tracks a bit, and I want to know what you think, what's coming down the pike, what are you paying attention to, and what should other people be paying attention to?
I think it's interesting. I mean, we're a smaller large now. I mean, we'll probably do 150 or $60 million in business this year. And, like a lot of companies, we've been going down this road of investing and building up a joint venture approach to be able to go after and maintain a larger portion of our small business contracts as they roll over. But then in the last year, you've seen a number of different SBA notices, and some are notices, some are just looking for information, but it's obvious that someone on the SBA wants to pinch the mentor protege program, that they think the mentor protege program is too favorable for the companies that leverage the joint venture aspect of it. I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, you've had, a very large part of industry commit to it, make all the investments, bid the contracts. I'm just really curious how this works out. And I think, the SBA and the government are kind of setting themselves up for some real conflict. I mean, from talking to other companies, larger smalls and smaller larges, I mean, they're already banding together with, hey, this political action committee is going to pursue this senator and that senator to intervene. I mean, companies are already talking about, putting lawsuits together to basically compel the SBA to, either slow them down, put some sticks in their spokes, and or force them to make sure whatever happens there is, a more reasonable approach than just, emasculating the program. But I think that's a real sea change. I mean, here's a program that, I mean, when it came out, everyone was surprised because when even 3 or 4 years ago, when you read the rules that came out for the mentor protege program, I mean, everyone was like, wow, this is really advantageous for those companies that do it. I mean, we didn't write it, the government did. And here we are a couple of years later, and the government's trying to go the other direction. I'm just not sure how you get that how you get that, cat back in the bag. I mean, the lawsuits, I mean, the political lobbying, that doesn't help anybody. I mean, imagine some of these big GWACs getting, stuck over lawsuits around the use of mentor proteges and such.
Well, mentor proteges and the JVs, there's been a lot of problems getting some contracts out of the gate due to protest. And that's only going to be exacerbated if lawsuits occur around who can bid and why they can bid.
Yep.
And if they're trying to stop a mentor protege or joint venture, that's going to really irritate a lot of people in the government contracting community.
Yeah, because you're sort of, threatening some existential issues there. I mean, if folks have nothing to lose, then they'll, use every lever they can to adjust things otherwise.
Yeah.
And it'll just muck up the business of government that much more,
Yeah, it's not that it's not convoluted already, but yeah, let's not exacerbate it. So, you got any final thoughts?
We just see a ton of opportunity out there, and we feel like there's a lot to go after. I mean, there's a lot of work. Budgets aren't getting any smaller. I mean, the way worldwide tensions are happening, China, Russia, and otherwise. I mean, there's just a lot of work out there to get. Great opportunity on our end. And I think the challenge for most company is, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, to go after those things, they're not all in your backyard. you've got to get your plan together about how you're going to go penetrate that next agency. How are you going to have a wedge that's, sharp enough to break down the door? I mean, how do you get your staff set up? How do you purchase the people? How do you, motivate them, attract them, retain them? There's plenty of, learning that has to happen there to make that successful. But I mean, there are some great opportunities, and it's worth the effort.
It is. I want to go back to David Hickman for a moment, because on his LinkedIn profile, his headline is, Vice President IT and leader of the Information Technology Horde at RMC. So my question to you is, do Mongols rule?
Well, apparently, I mean, I don't know if they rule, but they can win a lot of contracts. So are they literally ruling? I don't know. But the idea there, I mean, the reason we kind of gravitated toward the Mongols, Genghis Khan, that kind of thing, I mean, you can trace like a third of the world's genetic heritage back to, Genghis Khan.
Yep.
I mean, and their ethos wasn't just, I'm going to come and crush you. It was, hey, you can either get on board and, basically join the horde or get crushed. But, even then, my goal is to keep folding you into the horde and keep growing the horde and going forward, I mean, that's kind of our goal. I mean, we want to go to new places, win new contracts, take those people, bring them into our culture, make them part of the engine that keeps this thing going for the future. And that ties right back to everything you mentioned about that palpable sense of community and culture. I mean, if you can build it and folks can adopt it and you got the right people, they'll carry this thing forward. I mean, you really can't push a rope. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You got to pull it. And I mean, that's what's going to pull your rope. I mean, I know this is an old saying, everyone uses it, but I mean, culture eats strategy and everything else for breakfast. It'll eat it every day. And I mean, when you have folks that are committed, that's what gets folks to, come in on Saturday and Sunday and take care of business and put those proposals together. David had a post he put on LinkedIn a while ago. And basically it was just our parking lot with like 20 cars in it. And he's like, hey, if your parking lot can't look like this on a Sunday, you will not grow. That's true. I mean, if you're not willing to do that, you won't be growing. It's just that's the litmus test. And there's plenty of folks and companies that just don't have that. And that's okay. They're in a lifestyle company. We're here to grow. We're here to dominate. And that's where the commitment's at.
Very cool. Kevin, thank you for sharing, man. It's been a pleasure. This is the Growth Officers Association one-on-one with GovCon Leaders podcast. Please find us either at goa-tss.org, look us up on LinkedIn, attend our events, and consider joining. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.